The red sun of Kepler 442c hung low in the purple sky as Corporal Unahan checked her rifle for the third time that morning. She stood at the edge of Forward Operating Base Phoenix, watching the horizon where rocky hills met strange alien plants that swayed without wind. 3 years humans had been on this planet, 3 years of building homes and mining valuable minerals, 3 years of relative peace, but peace never lasted forever. "Corporal, we're ready," said Dae Kim, adjusting his helmet. He was young, maybe 23, with eager eyes that hadn't seen real combat yet. Behind him stood Hana Lee and Minho Park, both checking their equipment with practiced efficiency. Yuna nodded and activated her communication device. "Command, this is Patrol Team 7, beginning Eastern Sector sweep. Expected return at 1400 hours. Copy that, 7, watch for those energy signatures. Intel thinks it might be equipment malfunction, but stay sharp," came the reply from base. The 4 soldiers moved out in standard formation. Yuna took point, her eyes scanning everything. The morning air was cool and thin, making each breath feel incomplete. Her boots crunched on the rust-colored ground. Around them, the alien landscape stretched endlessly. Tall rock formations jutted from the earth like broken teeth. Strange crystals grew in clusters, humming softly with stored solar energy. They had been walking for 2 hours when Yuna's scanner beeped. She raised her fist and the team stopped instantly. Everyone dropped to one knee, weapons ready. "Got something," Yuna whispered into her comm. Energy signature confirmed. Bearing 095, distance approximately 400 meters. "Could be another crystal formation," Minho suggested hopefully. Yuna studied her scanner's display. The signature was different from natural crystals. It pulsed in regular patterns. Too regular. "No, this is artificial." They moved forward carefully, using the rock formations for cover. The energy signature grew stronger with each step. Then Yuna saw it. Behind a large boulder partially hidden was a device. It was sleek and metallic, covered in symbols she didn't recognize. A red light blinked steadily on its surface. "That's not human technology," Hana whispered, her voice tight with tension. Dae moved closer, pulling out his scanner. "It's a reconnaissance probe. Definitely not ours. Should I disable it?" Before Yuna could answer, her instincts screamed danger. She had survived 5 years in the Terran Defense Corps by trusting those instincts. "Fall back now!" The words barely left her mouth when the ground erupted around them. Alien soldiers emerged from hidden positions in the rocks. They were tall and angular, with bodies covered in chitinous armor that gleamed like polished obsidian. Their heads were insect-like, with multiple eyes that glowed purple. They moved with frightening speed, weapons raised. "Contact! Contact!" Yuna shouted, firing her rifle. The first alien jerked backward as her bullets found gaps in its armor. Chaos exploded across the rocky terrain. Energy weapons discharged with high-pitched shrieks. The aliens' weapons fired bolts of superheated plasma that turned stone into molten glass. Dae returned fire, his young face now hard with concentration. Hana and Minho found cover behind boulders, adding their weapons to the fight. But there were too many aliens. Yuna counted at least 15, maybe 20. They had walked straight into a trap. "Team, tactical retreat. Pattern Delta," Yuna ordered, laying down covering fire. Her rifle bucked against her shoulder as she fired in controlled bursts. Hana and Minho moved first, rushing backward while Dae and Yuna covered them. Then Dae and Yuna would move while the other two provided cover. It was a fighting withdrawal. Exactly as they had trained hundreds of times, they were making progress. The aliens were aggressive but somewhat uncoordinated. Yuna began to think they might actually escape. Then everything went wrong. 3 more aliens appeared from behind, cutting off their retreat path. Yuna saw the tactical situation collapse in an instant. They were surrounded. "Break for the canyon," she commanded. There was a narrow ravine 30 meters to their left. If they could reach it, the tight space would limit the aliens' numbers advantage. The team sprinted. Energy bolts sizzled past Yuna's head so close she could feel the heat. One bolt hit Minho's shoulder pad, melting the armor but missing flesh. He stumbled but kept running. "Go! Go, I'll cover." Yuna positioned herself behind a large crystal formation. Her rifle barked again and again. She was buying seconds, precious seconds, for her team to reach safety. Dae hesitated at the canyon entrance. "Corporal, we can't leave you." "That's an order, soldier." "Warn the base. They need to know about this." Yuna fired again. An alien fell, then another. Hana grabbed Dae's arm, pulling him into the canyon. Minho followed, looking back with anguished eyes. They disappeared into the ravine. Yuna felt relief. Her team would make it. She could hold this position long enough for them to get away. Then she could follow. She didn't see the alien flanking her from the right. Didn't see it raise its strange weapon. The weapon looked organic, like a living thing grafted to the alien's arm. It fired not energy, but something else. 3 crystalline darts hit Yuna's side. They punched through her armor like it was paper. She felt them pierce her skin, felt something cold inject into her bloodstream. The sensation was instant and terrible. Her muscles locked. Her rifle fell from nerveless fingers. She tried to move, tried to speak, but her body wouldn't obey. The toxin spread through her veins like ice water. Her vision blurred. Her heartbeat became irregular, thundering in her ears. Yuna collapsed to her knees, then fell forward onto her face. The rust-colored dirt pressed against her cheek. She could still see, still hear, but couldn't move at all. Paralyzed. Alien soldiers surrounded her fallen body. They spoke in clicking, chittering sounds. One of them rolled her onto her back with its foot. Multiple purple eyes studied her with what might have been curiosity or contempt. Her vision was fading now. The toxin was shutting down her nervous system. She tried to fight it, tried to stay conscious, but it was like fighting the tide. Darkness crept in from the edges of her sight. The last thing Yuna saw before everything went black was an alien soldier lifting her body. They were taking her somewhere. Her last thought was an apology to her team, to the colonists who depended on soldiers like her for protection. Then there was nothing but darkness and the distant sound of her heartbeat. Growing slower and slower, the aliens carried their prize back toward their hidden camp, confident that another weak human had fallen to their superior weapons. They had studied humans for weeks now. Fragile creatures, soft skin, weak bodies. The toxin always killed within minutes. This one would be dead before they reached camp. They had no idea how wrong they were. They had no idea what humans were truly capable of when pushed to the edge of death. They would learn, but the lesson would cost them everything. The Vextar forward camp sat hidden in a deep canyon, 40 kilometers from the human settlement. Tall stone walls rose on both sides, making the location invisible from above. Portable structures made from dark metal formed a small military base. Energy shields shimmered at key defensive positions. Approximately 50 Vextar soldiers moved about their duties with disciplined efficiency. Commander Vex Cool stood in the command center, his 4 arms folded across his chitinous chest. His purple eyes tracked the soldiers returning from patrol. They carried something, a body. "Another specimen, Commander," said one of the soldiers, dropping Yuna's limp form onto the ground near a research tent. The toxin worked perfectly. Death came quickly. Vexcool approached and looked down at the human. So small, so fragile. How had these creatures managed to establish a foothold on this world? Their bodies had no natural armor. Their weapons were primitive chemical projectile throwers. Yet somehow they kept surviving. "Take it to researcher Tixnall," Vexcool ordered. "Let him examine this one before disposal." 2 soldiers dragged Yuna's body into the research tent. Inside, researcher Tixnall looked up from his workstation. He was smaller than the warriors, with lighter armor and additional sensory organs around his head. His role was understanding, not fighting. "Ah, another human," Tixnall said, his voice clicking with interest. "Place it on the examination platform." The soldiers dumped Yuna onto a flat metal surface and left. Tixnall approached, his scanning devices humming to life. He was fascinated by human biology, so different from Vextar physiology. Humans were warm-blooded, kept their temperature constant. Vextar were cold-blooded, relying on external heat sources. He ran his scanner over Yuna's body. "Curious," he muttered. "The toxin should have stopped all biological functions by now, but I'm detecting residual activity." Her heart was still beating. Very slowly, but beating. Her body temperature was rising, not falling as it should with approaching death. The scanner showed unusual chemical activity in her bloodstream. Tixnall leaned closer. He had studied 17 dead humans over the past 2 months. This one was different somehow. Her body seemed to be fighting the toxin instead of succumbing to it. Commander Vexacool entered the tent. "Well, is it dead?" "Not yet," Tixnall said slowly. "The toxin is working, but her biology is responding in unexpected ways. Her immune system appears to be attacking the toxin molecules." Vexcool made a dismissive gesture with one of his 4 hands. "Impossible. Our toxin kills every species we have tested it on. Krillin, Nathori, Heptons all died within 3 minutes. This human will be no different. Perhaps, Tixanal said, not sounding convinced. But there is something unusual about her internal augmentations. Augmentations? Vexcool stepped closer. Yes. The humans implant artificial devices in their soldiers' bodies. This one has several. One appears to be enhancing her blood filtration. Another is regulating her metabolism. Crude technology compared to ours, but effective. Vexcool clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. Even with their toys, she is dying. Leave the body here. When death is confirmed, dispose of it with the others. The commander left the tent. Tixnell continued his examination for another hour, recording data. The human's vital signs were weakening but not stopping. It was as if her body had entered some kind of protective state. Her breathing was shallow. Her heart rate had dropped to barely 20 beats per minute. Her body temperature had spiked to dangerous levels but was now slowly declining. Eventually, Tixnell grew bored. The human would die eventually. They always did. He left her on the examination table and went to process his data. Outside, the Vextar camp continued its normal routine. Soldiers trained with weapons. Engineers maintained equipment. Scouts returned with reports on human movements. No one paid attention to the dead human in the research tent. Far away at Forward Operating Base Phoenix, Day, Hana, and Minho burst through the gates, gasping for breath. Their armor was scorched. Their faces were pale with exhaustion and fear. "We need Commander Jiwan, now!" Hana shouted at the gate guards. Within minutes, they stood in the command center. Commander Jiwan Choi was a 40-year-old veteran with sharp eyes and gray starting to show in her short hair. She listened to their report without interruption. "Aliens? You're certain?" she asked when they finished. "Yes, Commander," Day said, his voice still shaking. "At least 20 of them. They ambushed us. Corporal Yuna stayed behind so we could escape and warn you." "And you left her?" Jiwan's voice was cold. "She ordered us to, Commander," Minho said quietly. "She was hit by their weapons. Some kind of darts. She went down hard. She gave us a direct order to warn the base." Jiwan was silent for a long moment. She had known Yuna for 3 years. Had trained with her. Trusted her. "Did you see her die?" The 3 soldiers exchanged glances. "No, Commander," Hana admitted. "But she was hit multiple times. She fell and didn't move. The aliens surrounded her position. Then we don't know she's dead." Jiwan turned to her tactical display. "Show me exactly where this happened." Day pointed to a location on the holographic map. "Here, Commander. Eastern Sector, grid reference 447889. Jiwan studied the map. 40 kilometers from base. Rough terrain. If aliens were there, they likely had a camp nearby. And if Yuna was, taken alive or her body recovered, the aliens might learn about human defensive positions, patrol patterns, everything. "I want a rescue team ready in 24 hours, Jiwan ordered. "Full combat load. We're going to recover Corporal Yuna, dead or alive, and we're going to find that alien camp." "Commander, with respect," said her second officer, "we should focus on defense. If aliens are this close, they might attack the colony." "We will do both," Jiwan said firmly. "Double the perimeter guards. Put everyone on alert. But I won't leave one of my soldiers out there. Dismissed." As the others left to prepare, Hana remained. "Commander, do you think she's alive?" Jiwan looked at the young soldier. "Yuna Han is the toughest soldier I've ever known. She survived 2 direct plasma hits on Arcturus IV. She completed a 30-kilometer march with a broken leg on Thalassa. If anyone could survive, it's her." She paused. "But I won't lie to you. If these aliens have weapons we've never seen before, weapons our armor can't stop, then we need to be realistic about our chances." Hana nodded and left. Alone in the command center, Jiwan stared at the map. "Hold on, Corporal," she whispered. "We're coming for you." Back at the Vextar camp, night had fallen. The alien sun had set, and the temperature dropped rapidly. Most Vextar retreated to heated structures. 2 guards remained on patrol, but they moved sluggishly in the cold. In the research tent, Yuna lay exactly as she had been left. Motionless. Silent. The scanner nearby showed her vital signs, but no one was watching. Her heart beat 18 times per minute. Her body temperature had stabilized at 39 degrees Celsius. Inside her body, a war was being fought. The Vextar toxin was designed to shut down neural pathways and stop muscular function. It worked by binding to specific proteins in the nervous system. It was incredibly effective against most known biology. But human biology had something the Vextar didn't account for: adaptability, and military augmentations designed to keep soldiers alive in extreme conditions. Yuna's blood filtration implant was not sophisticated alien technology. It was human engineering, brute force, and straightforward. It couldn't remove the toxin, but it could slow its spread. Her metabolic regulator did something the Vextar researcher hadn't fully understood. When it detected the toxin, it triggered a defensive response. It put her body into a state similar to suspended animation. Non-essential functions shut down. Energy was redirected to immune response and cellular repair. Her fever had been the first defense. The elevated temperature made it harder for the toxin to bind properly to proteins. Then her immune system began producing antibodies. It would take hours, but slowly, molecule by molecule, her body was neutralizing the poison. The Vextar believed she was dead or dying. But they were wrong. Yuna Han was fighting. Every cell in her body was fighting. And humans, more than any species in the galaxy, were very good at fighting. Consciousness returned slowly, like surfacing from deep water. Yuna became aware of pain first. Her entire body ached. Her head pounded with each heartbeat. Her mouth was dry as dust. Every muscle felt like it had been beaten with hammers, but she was alive. That was unexpected. She kept her eyes closed and her breathing steady. First rule of survival: assess before acting. She listened, heard the hum of alien equipment, heard chittering voices in the distance, felt cold metal beneath her, smelled something chemical and strange. She was in the alien camp. They had taken her. They thought she was dead or dying. Good, let them think that. Yuna slowly took inventory of her body without moving. Her fingers could feel. Her toes could wiggle, barely. The paralysis was wearing off. The toxin was still in her system. She could feel it, a cold weight in her veins, but it wasn't killing her anymore. Her body had fought it to a standstill. She opened her eyes to thin slits, just enough to see. She was in some kind of tent structure. Alien equipment surrounded her. Scanning devices. Computers displaying symbols she couldn't read. There was a doorway covered by a dark fabric. No guards inside the tent. That was the alien's first mistake. Yuna tested her muscles carefully. Her right arm responded sluggishly. Her left was better. Her legs were weak but functional. She would not be running marathons, but she could move. She turned her head slowly, fighting waves of dizziness. On a nearby table, she saw her equipment. Her rifle. Her sidearm. Her combat knife. Her tactical vest with its remaining ammunition and grenades. The aliens had taken her gear but left it close. Studying it, probably. That was their second mistake. Yuna waited. Patience was part of her training. She needed more time for her body to recover. Needed to understand the camp's layout. Needed to plan. She listened to the alien voices outside. They were chittering to each other in their language. Her helmet's translator was nearby, partially damaged but still flickering weakly. She caught fragments of their conversation. Attack. At dawn. Human settlement weak. Take the mining equipment. No. Resistance expected. They were planning to attack the colony. At dawn. That meant she had maybe 6 or 7 hours. Her team had made it back. They would have warned Commander G1. But would they have time to prepare proper defenses? Would they even believe the report? Yuna realized no rescue was coming in time. Even if G1 believed Dai and organized a team, it would take at least 24 hours. By then, the aliens would have attacked. Colonists would die. Children would die. She couldn't let that happen. Moving very slowly, Yuna sat up. Pain shot through her body. She gritted her teeth and pushed through it. Her vision swam, but she fought to stay conscious. She was a Terran Defense Corps soldier. She had survived worse than poison. Once she had operated for 3 days with a broken rib and a punctured lung. She could handle this. She stood on shaking legs and nearly fell. Grabbed the examination table for support. Waited for the dizziness to pass. Breathed deeply, forcing oxygen into her lungs. One step, then another. She made it to the table with her equipment. Her fingers closed around her combat knife. The familiar weight steadied her. She strapped it to her belt quietly. Next, her sidearm. She checked it quickly. Full magazine. 15 rounds. The rifle was there too, but it would be too noisy for what she needed to do first. She took it anyway, slinging it over her shoulder. Her tactical vest was next. She put it on, wincing at the pain. 4 grenades remained. 2 fragmentation, 1 smoke, 1 electromagnetic pulse. 3 magazines for her rifle. 2 for her sidearm. Not much ammunition for a full assault. But she was not planning a full assault. Not yet. Una looked around the tent and found a medical injector. The aliens had used it to draw her blood for study. She took it and 3 containers of blue liquid labeled in alien script. She had no idea what they were, but they might be useful. She pocketed them. She pulled out her tactical scanner from her vest. Amazingly, it still worked. She activated it on its lowest setting and waited as it mapped the area around her. The display showed approximately 50 life signs in the camp. Weapon emplacements at 3 positions. 1 large structure that likely held the command center. Several smaller tents. A fuel depot. Communications array. Una studied the layout carefully, memorizing every detail. In her 5 years of military service, she had learned that knowledge was as important as firepower. Maybe more important. The camp was arranged in a roughly circular pattern. The research tent where she was located was near the edge. That was good. It meant fewer aliens between her and escape. But she was not thinking about escape anymore. She was thinking about making sure these aliens never attacked her colony. Una checked her chronometer. 4 hours until dawn. 4 hours to do the impossible. 1 human soldier against 50 alien warriors in their own camp. The tactical part of her brain said it was suicide. The angry part of her brain said she did not care. The rational part of her brain said there might be a way. Not through direct confrontation. She would lose that fight, but through strategy. Through using their assumptions against them. They thought humans were weak. They thought 1 human soldier was no threat. They had left her unguarded. They had left her equipment nearby. They had grown complacent. Those were fatal mistakes. Una moved to the tent entrance and peered through a gap in the fabric. 2 guards stood about 30 meters away, facing outward. They were watching for threats from outside, not inside. Their posture was relaxed. They did not expect danger. The canyon walls rose high on both sides. The night was dark. The alien moon provided little light. Perfect conditions for what she needed to do. She needed to move quietly. Needed to stay in shadows. Needed to strike where they were weakest. She could not fight 50 aliens in open combat. But she could eliminate their advantages one by one. First, their communications. If they could not call for help or coordinate, they would be confused. Second, their fuel supply. Explosions created chaos, and chaos created opportunities. Third, their leadership. Cut off the head and the body thrashed uselessly. Then, if she survived that long, she would deal with whoever was left. Una took several deep breaths, forcing her body to respond. The toxin was still affecting her, making her slower than normal. Her hands shook slightly. Her vision occasionally blurred, but she had trained for combat in worse conditions. During her core training, they had made her fight while exhausted, injured, and poisoned with mild toxins to build resistance. She thought of the colonists, families who had come here for a better life, engineers and miners and teachers and children. They depended on soldiers like her. They trusted the Terran Defense Corps to keep them safe. She would not fail them. Una pulled her combat knife from its sheath. The blade was 30 centimeters of monomolecular edge steel. It could cut through most materials with ease. She had trained with this knife for 5 years, knew its weight, knew its balance. It was an extension of her arm. She waited for the right moment. One of the guards turned away, looking toward the command center. The other was checking some kind of device. Now. Una slipped out of the tent like a shadow. She moved low and fast, using the darkness and the terrain. Her body protested every movement, but she pushed through the pain. She had been trained to ignore pain. Pain was just a signal. It could be acknowledged and then dismissed. She reached a cluster of supply containers and pressed against them. The guards had not seen her. She was 15 meters from the communications array now. She could see it clearly. A tall structure with multiple antenna-like projections. Alien symbols glowed on its base. That was her first target. Una pulled out one of her grenades. The electromagnetic pulse grenade. It would destroy electronics in a 10-meter radius. She set the timer for 30 seconds. Then she pulled out the smoke grenade. That one she would use to cover her escape. She was about to throw the EMP grenade when she heard footsteps. An alien soldier was walking directly toward her position. It was not a patrol. Just random chance, bad luck. The alien was 5 meters away. 4 meters. It would see her in seconds. Yuna's hand moved to her knife. She burst from cover in a sprint. The alien soldier barely had time to register Yuna's presence before her knife found the weak point under its chitinous jaw. The blade punched through and into what passed for a brain. The creature made a soft gurgling sound and collapsed. Yuna caught it and lowered it quietly behind the containers. Her heart was racing. Her hands were steady now. The combat had pushed the last remnants of toxin fog from her mind. This was what she had trained for. This was what she was good at. She wiped her blade clean and activated the EMP grenade. 30 seconds. She threw it high and far. It arced through the dark air and landed near the base of the communications array. Then Yuna ran toward different cover, counting in her head. 25, 20, 15. She reached a rocky outcropping and dropped behind it. 10, 5. The grenade detonated silently. There was no explosion, no flash. Just a pulse of electromagnetic energy that rippled outward invisibly. The communications array sparked and went dark. Lights throughout the camp flickered. Some went out completely. The aliens had hardened their systems against EMP, but not perfectly. She heard confused chittering rising from different parts of the camp. Good. Confusion was what she needed. Yuna pulled out her smoke grenade and threw it into the center of the camp. It landed and began spewing thick white smoke. The smoke filled the canyon, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The chittering turned into alarmed clicking. Aliens were shouting orders in their language. She moved quickly while they were disoriented. Her next target was the fuel depot. She had seen it on her scanner. It was 30 meters away, near the western wall of the canyon. Large containers of whatever the aliens used to power their weapons and vehicles. She stayed low, using the smoke and darkness as cover. Her body was responding better now. Adrenaline was doing what her augmentations could not. Pain became distant. Weakness became irrelevant. She was in combat mode, and combat mode meant survival at any cost. 2 aliens ran past her, moving toward the communications array. They did not see her crouched in the smoke. She let them go. Time was more valuable than additional kills right now. She reached the fuel depot, 6 large cylindrical containers, each taller than her. They hummed with stored energy. Alien symbols warned of danger. Perfect. Yuna pulled out her 2 fragmentation grenades. She set the timers for 45 seconds. That would give her time to get clear. She placed 1 grenade at the base of the nearest container. The second she wedged between 2 containers, then she ran. 40 seconds. 35. She sprinted toward the southern edge of the camp, ignoring the pain in her legs. Behind her, aliens were trying to organize. Someone had found the dead guard. The alarm was being raised. But without communications, orders were not spreading efficiently. 20 seconds. Yuna dove behind a large boulder and covered her head with her arms. 10. 5. The fuel depot exploded. The blast was massive. Fire and force erupted into the night. The containers detonated in sequence, each one adding to the destruction. The canyon walls reflected the sound, amplifying it into a deafening roar. Heat washed over Yuna's position, singeing her hair. Aliens screamed. Some were caught in the blast. Others were thrown off their feet by the shockwave. Fire spread to nearby structures. The camp was suddenly lit up brighter than daylight. Yuna rose and unslung her rifle. Now came the dangerous part. She moved along the canyon wall using the chaos she had created. Aliens were running everywhere, trying to fight the fires, trying to find the attacker. They expected an assault from outside. They were defending the wrong direction. She saw 3 aliens trying to set up a defensive position. She raised her rifle and fired 3 controlled bursts. All 3 went down. Her shots were precise, aimed at the weak points in their armor. Joints, necks, the spaces between chitinous plates. She kept moving, never staying in one place. That was the key to guerrilla warfare. Hit and move, strike and disappear, make them afraid of the shadows. 2 more aliens appeared from behind a burning tent. She fired. They fell, her rifle ran dry. She dropped the empty magazine and slammed in a fresh one. Still moving. Always moving. An energy bolt sizzled past her head, so close she felt the heat. She rolled behind cover and returned fire. The alien who had shot at her jerked backward. Purple blood sprang from its neck. Yuna's tactical sense was hyper-alert. She tracked every movement, every sound. Her training had taken over completely. She was not thinking anymore, just reacting, seeing a threat and eliminating it, finding cover and using it, creating opportunities and exploiting them. She reached the eastern side of the camp and found a small group of aliens trying to operate what looked like a heavy weapon. She pulled her sidearm and fired as she ran. The first alien fell. The second turned and raised its weapon. Too slow, she shot it twice. The third tried to run. She shot it in the back. It was brutal. It was efficient. It was necessary. The camp was complete chaos now. Fire illuminated everything. Smoke from burning structures mixed with the smoke from her grenade. Aliens were shouting in their clicking language. Some were trying to fight the fires. Some were trying to find the attacker. Some were just trying to survive. Yuna reloaded her sidearm and kept moving. She had lost count of how many she had killed. It did not matter. There were still too many. She needed to find their command center, find their leader. Without leadership, they would break. She spotted the largest structure in the camp. It had guards even now. 4 aliens stood at its entrance, weapons ready. They were more alert than the others. Professional soldiers. Yuna studied the situation. 4 guards between her and the command center. She was running low on ammunition. 1 magazine left for her rifle. 1 for her sidearm. No more grenades. She needed to be smart about this. She picked up a piece of debris and threw it to the left. The guards turned toward the sound. In that moment of distraction, she opened fire. Her rifle barked and 2 guards fell. The other 2 returned fire, but she was already moving. She rolled right and came up firing. A 3rd guard went down. The 4th guard was fast. It charged at her, weapon blazing. Energy bolts tore up the ground around her. 1 hit her vest, burning through the outer layer but not penetrating. She felt the impact but ignored it. She raised her rifle and fired. Click. Empty. The alien was 5 meters away. 4 meters. Yuna drew her sidearm and fired 3 times. The alien's forward momentum carried it forward even as it died. It crashed into her, knocking her down. She pushed the corpse off and stood up, breathing hard. Every muscle screamed at her now. The adrenaline was wearing off. The toxin's effects were returning. She felt weak, dizzy, but she could not stop. Not yet. She entered the command center. Inside it was cooler and darker. Holographic displays showed maps and data. In the center stood a large alien bigger than the others. 4 arms, darker armor, multiple weapons. This was their commander. Vexcool turned to face her. His purple eyes studied this human who had somehow destroyed his camp. Impossible, he clicked. The toxin should have killed you. Yuna raised her sidearm, aiming at his head. You underestimated human biology. Fatal mistake. Around the commander stood 6 more soldiers, elite guards. They raised their weapons. Yuna calculated the odds. 7 against 1. She had maybe 10 rounds left. Her body was failing. She could barely stand, but she was not dead yet. You will not leave here alive, human, Vexcool said. Yuna smiled, though it took effort. Neither will you, she fired. The command center erupted in violence. Yuna moved on instinct, her body executing movements drilled into muscle memory. She shot the first guard, dove behind a holographic console as energy bolts shredded where she had been standing, came up firing. Second guard down. She rolled left as the console exploded. Fired twice. Third guard collapsed. Her sidearm clicked empty. She threw it at the 4th guard's head, hitting its eye cluster. It screamed and stumbled. She rushed forward, drawing her knife. The blade found its throat. 2 guards left, plus the commander. Yuna picked up a fallen alien weapon. It was heavy and awkwardly shaped for human hands. She fired it anyway. The energy bolt went wide, but it made the guards scatter. She charged at the nearest one. It was not expecting a frontal assault. Her knife punched through a gap in its armor. She twisted the blade and the alien collapsed. 1 guard left. The guard and Vexcool both fired at once. Yuna threw herself behind a support pillar. Energy bolts melted the pillar's base. It began to collapse. She ran from the falling debris. The guard tracked her with its weapon. She was too slow, too tired. The bolt would hit. Then the ceiling gave way. The damaged pillar brought down part of the structure. Debris fell on the guard, crushing it. Only Vexcool remained. The commander and the human faced each other across the ruined command center. Yuna's knife was in her hand. Vexcool had 2 energy weapons, 1 in each of his upper arms. You have cost me everything, human, he hissed. Yuna could barely stand. Blood ran from a dozen wounds. Her vision was darkening at the edges, but she met his multiple eyes without flinching. "Good," she said.